So thank you again for joining us to discuss the new walkway that will connect the Pony Ridge neighborhood with the signalized crosswalk at Southeast 124th Avenue. My name is Jill Roselle. I work for Alta and I'm the public engagement specialist for this project.
And I'm Mike McCarthy. I'm Tualatin's interim city engineer, and I've been directing the Tualatin Moving Forward program, including this project. And Kate?
And I'm Kate Conrad, and I'm with Murray Smith. We're the design engineers, and I'm the project manager for the project.
And tonight, Mike will briefly discuss the project background and tell you a little bit about the City of Tualatin's bond program. And then he'll review the specific project improvements for the new walkway along Highway 99 from Pacific Drive to 124th Avenue. We have an outlined project schedule that we'll share of what you can expect over the coming year for the project. And then at that time, we're going to open it up for discussion and a Q&A session. So until then, we'll have you muted, but you can chat any questions that you have or just save them for when that discussion occurs. And then please note this presentation and discussion are being recorded, and we'll be posting it on the project website to ensure everyone has an opportunity to learn more about the project. So without further ado, I'd like to have Mike McCarthy tell you a little bit more about the City of Tualatin's bond program and how it'll benefit your neighborhood's pedestrian access and safety.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. So this project is part of the Tualatin Moving Forward program, which was passed by the voters back in 2018 to fund a few dozen projects all over the city, including this one, which is shown by the arrow up here. And we've managed to deliver a number of the other projects already, and we're just getting to the later stages of the design portion of this project. And then I think on the next slide, we have a little more of where it is and what's going on. So this project is that orange arrow that Jill is pointing to with the mouse pointer. And it would be a walkway along the, I call it the northwest side of Highway 99W through this area, running from the Pony Ridge neighborhood in Angel Haven up along that northwest side of Highway 99 to connect with the existing sidewalk that ends right about 124th Avenue. And then there's a crosswalk at 124th that people can use to get across there. And then they can also connect in with a sidewalk and trail up towards the River Ridge Apartments. And then a different city project to build a new trail connection along the Tualatin River Greenway and under the Highway 99W bridges over the Tualatin River to eventually connect over to Hazelbrook Drive and over towards Hazelbrook Middle School. So between the two, I think it'll be a really good connection and provide a good walking route. So this is the particular project we're looking at and talking about this evening. And the next slide shows a little more of the specifics of it. So it'll start from right about where the bus stop is at the eastern end of Pacific Drive, or where it meets Pacific Highway 99W, and run along that northwestern side in front of the Robin's Nest neighborhood and along some of those properties up until it meets the existing sidewalk at the bus stop just west of 124th Avenue. So it shows about the general location. And our plan is really just build a basic walkway and keep disturbance as small as we can and not make too many changes to the properties and anything else in the area. And I think our next slide has a little more specifics about the project. So this kind of turns, so north is kind of diagonally up and to the right on this aerial. Shows a few more of the specifics of where it would be. We're planning to build it within the existing highway right-of-way, but recognizing that it's a better walking experience the farther away we can get from Highway 99. The plan is to build the walkway along the kind of the far edge of the right-of-way away from the road and connecting again from Pacific Drive up to 124th Avenue. And you can see from the picture on the top left there, we'll have to work around some existing slopes, and we'll tend to be on the far side of the ditch. But between the back of the ditch and the fence is typically where it would end up being, where there are fences. And then the next slide start showing some more of the specifics. And we're still fine tuning the design right in this area. I think you muted yourself, Jill.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I think, did we skip ahead? No, this is zooming in now, so we're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And feel free to chime in with anything else that I forget to mention.
Okay.
So this shows the western end of the project, or I guess southwestern end of the project. From the existing bus stop, unfortunately, it looks like we will have to take out a couple trees right there. Just because of where the path would need to go, it's hard to keep them, or at least keep their root structures intact. And then we're hoping to work our way around the Riverwood Prestige Senior Living sign. It's possible that may need to move, but we're looking at trying to go on the road side of that. And then a couple of the light poles would also be getting relocated to serve the path a little better. And then we're working along the back side of the ditch. There will be a little bit of extension of some of the culverts in there as we move towards the northeast, I think on the next slide here. Oh, and welcome, Lucy, and thank you for joining us. This slide shows a little bit of how things would look differently after the project with the bus stop. We would be building a concrete pad there for people to wait on as they're waiting for the buses. And then the walkway would be going basically along the driveway to that Prestige Living facility up there, as it then progresses towards the northeast along Highway 99. And the next slide. This shows a little bit of how it would work around the Robin's Nest neighborhood. Is there anybody here from Robin's Nest? I guess it's hard to tell with people muted.
It is me.
Okay. So our plan is to leave as much of the hedges in place as possible. I think, and that's a little different from what people may have seen earlier, where I think there was an earlier drawing shown that would take the hedges out. I think we heard from some folks that there's a lot of value to having that kind of screening from the highway. So we'll basically be going between the back part of the hedge and the right-of-way line and trying to keep as much of the hedge in place as we can. And then where it crosses the driveways, we'll have to do a little bit of regrading. There are some federal requirements for the Americans with Disabilities Act that mean we have to make the cross slope of the pathway fairly flat, which will mean a little bit of adjustment on some of the driveways. And we are or will be in touch with some of the folks here that have the houses that are right next to where the path will be going, and some modifications there. We are planning to construct a new fence along the Robin's Nest property to help kind of establish or replace some of the shielding that would be having to get removed for the pathway to go through. And then as we get towards the east, we'll end up having to rebuild a bit of that existing fence on the property to the northeast of the Robin's Nest neighborhood. And unfortunately, there's a few trees right there that we didn't see a way that we could get the pathway in while keeping the trees in place. And particularly the way some of the roots are extending out, that we don't want to leave a hazard tree. So we want to, so we ended up needing to remove some of those, and we'll be working with the property owner on that. And then in some places we'll have to build a small new retaining wall, usually to cover the difference, maybe a couple feet or so of elevation between the top of the walkway and the existing yard. And then as we get towards the northeast, on the next slide, this shows a little bit more of what it would look like as a rendering of where the path would go between the hedge and the existing residences in the Robin's Nest area. And basically we'll do our best to make it a decent facility to walk on while keeping some of that same screening between the road and the neighborhood. And then this is the northeastern end of the project. Unfortunately, we'll have to take out a couple more trees there, basically because they're right in where the pathway would have to go. And in here with some topography, we actually have to stay particularly close to the road. And then we'll be tying into the concrete pad that you can see in the picture on the top right. It's right about where the bus stop sign is. And we'll actually be joining into the sort of the back part of that concrete pad. And then the photo on the bottom right shows the crosswalk and how to get across Highway 99 at that point. So we're hoping that this will really provide a good connection to allow people to walk at least, up in this direction without having to walk along the shoulder of Highway 99. So we've seen people doing that, and it's pretty scary to see. Well, thank you, Doug, for joining us. And here's another rendering showing a bit of how the pathway will look. We'll basically just have to cut back some of the vegetation. We'll only cut back what we really need to. And then we'll have a little bit of a separation between the walkway and the roadway pavement. So we are getting towards the later stages of design. And this is when we're working out some of the real specifics of how it comes together. We've had to do a lot of coordination with the state to get their permission and approval to build this along Highway 99W. And there are some state requirements that have driven some aspects of the design. We're planning to build in the spring and summer of next year. So we'll be going out to bid more like in the winter, and then spring and summer construction. We will be working with the contractor to, we'll be requiring them to do what they can to minimize their impact on properties and keep driveways open. And I think they'll be able to keep the driveways open except for when they're working in the immediate driveway area. So there may be some day-long closures of particular driveways as they're repaving parts of the pathway. And I should mention that we will actually have a bid alternate for the pathway to be either asphalt or concrete, depending on what the contractor believes they can construct most efficiently, and basically, and what they believe will save the taxpayers the most dollars in actually getting this done. So that's the basic schedule, and I think is questions and answers next.
Yes, and also just mentioning the email here, if you wish to sign up for project updates. If you didn't receive an email about this meeting, it means that you're not on our contact list. So you can just send a message to this email here and let us know you'd like project updates. This will be posted again at the end of the presentation. So,
and if you do email that address, it might help if you let us know which projects you want updates for. Because a couple dozen other projects that you may or may not want to see updates on.
definitely, yes, mention Highway 99 and the pathway.
So what questions do you have, or anything else that we should be discussing?
I have a couple questions. That how wide is the path?
So the path is generally 6 feet wide. There'll be some places, such as when we're going around some of the existing utility poles, where the path will have to narrow to 5 feet for just a very short distance. And the plan is to leave the existing utility poles where they are, because as you may notice, there's a lot of wires up there and some high voltage power that make it especially difficult to move.
What kind of fence that you are building, and how high is it?
Kate, do you have the specifics on that?
So I think we've discussed, the standard fence is 6 feet high and it's a wood fence. I think we want to, if we're replacing a fence, we want to replace it to, its existing configuration. In the Robin's Nest case, we are proposing a 6 foot high wood fence.
Yeah, it is due to privacy and the
Yep.
close proximity between the public and private. Right. And also that by building the path behind the hedges, you are creating a planted strip or landscaping strip for the roadway. So would it become the city to maintain the hedges?
No, so it's actually a citywide code that anything in the right of way is actually maintained by the abutting property owner, or anything like landscaping like that outside the road. So it would remain the Robin's Nest responsibility to maintain the hedges.
So how does it work that owners have to maintain the pathway too because it is in the right of way?
Well, the plan is for the city to keep up the pathway itself, but the hedges would remain.
Well, but my understanding is that, like, I live in a house right now. I have to maintain the sidewalk, I have to clear the snow, and I have to wash the sidewalk to make sure that, somebody don't get hurt when walking in front of my house. Is it the same situation here, or how would I know that? I'm not going to be responsible for that.
Yeah, that is the code citywide, and it's really the same code throughout the region. And let's see, we see a couple questions came in on the chat. An estimate of how long the project would take. I would figure construction itself would be about 3 months for this, from when they start turning dirt to when they get it finished. There may be a little longer in certain areas or some final punch list. And,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
West of my driveway, they're going to remove a large tree to provide clearance. If that opens my property to view, can that 6 foot fence be extended south of my driveway?
So which property is this?
This is this property right here, 18081.
18081.
Doug, are you closest to the the bus stop at
Yes,
124th?
I am closest to the bus stop.
Okay, so you're the end property,
Right.
right? You currently do not have a fence, correct?
I do not have, but I do have a large tree structure and some bushes. That large tree has to be removed, and I'm not opposing that being removed. But if that exposes my property to noise or view, I'm wondering if that fence could not be extended to my driveway right here. This distance right here.
Yeah, and I know there's a number of trees that have been identified and they're shown here on the map. Some trees are within the right of way and are in direct conflict with the walkway. Some are right along the property line and the root system would be affected, like Mike said. We do plan on coming out and talking to property owners, on specific impacts, like the large tree you're mentioning. I don't know offhand which tree that is. And we'd be happy to talk to you also about, extending the fence at that time.
I would be happy to talk to you about that. I also have
Okay.
a question relating to the current drainage ditch, which goes along that whole frontage and currently served by culverts under the driveway. But the proposed walkway will cover much of that? What is to become of it?
Yes, so the walkway is separated from the road and will be on the property side of the ditch for the majority of the length of the project. It does have to cross the ditch to tie back into the existing bus stops and sidewalk.
And that would be in
So-
front of my property, yes.
Yep. So where we cross the ditch, we would be, filling the ditch, and we would be piping the ditch flow. So we would be extending those driveway culverts to in those areas where we're filling the ditch. So there is some work there that would be happening through the driveway to extend the culverts.
The other question that I and my neighbor have concerns the driveways themselves. The pathway will elevate the current access and could create a fairly steep decline into the property. Will that be graded in a proper way so that it's not a problem?
Yes, as Mike mentioned, we have to meet ADA requirements. So our walkway, as it crosses the driveways, can only have a cross slope across that walkway of maximum of 2%. And so we're trying to best fit the walkway with existing grades, but the driveway will have to be regraded up to the sides of the walkway, and we're going to try and minimize those slopes as best possible. Occasionally to minimize that, to flatten those grade changes, it means we're carrying that regrading back into the property a little bit or back towards the highway. And we're working through those grades now.
Well, it's significant because you may recall the swale that was in the highway at that point in front of my place and the neighbor raised the level of the highway about 3 feet, to which our driveways had to be graded upward. To accomplish that, it took a fairly decent run, probably 20 feet. The sidewalk will raise that whole level to highway level so that it will impede or impinge onto the driveway. So I would think there'd be some major fill needed.
Well, we're dropping the walkway as needed to match grades. Where we have lower grades than the highway, where it's higher, we're raising the walkway to meet those grades where we cross the driveways. Is when we come out and chat with you, we'll be, showing you some updated plans that might answer some questions, or maybe they'll be a little bit revised from what you've seen the last time.
Okay.
Yeah. So our plan in general with driveways is, and with the grade of the walkways, we're trying to match the existing ground as closely as we can and minimize disturbance as much as we can. But there are a few of the properties where, in order to really make the grades work well, we need to actually work on the driveway onto the property a little ways. And our plan is to be in touch with each of the owners of those properties to try to work out, some of the specifics of that. And is that a grading that they'd like? And, to get permission to be able to do that work to connect in. And we're so basically asking for permission to try to make the grades as smooth as we can.
Well, I think, Mike, that the only real areas affected are where the highway was raised those 3+ feet years ago.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll be in touch with you about that connection.
Okay.
And how to try to make that work as best we can.
This is Jonathan.
Yes, Jonathan.
I was wondering, when you mentioned that you are going to have a plan to meet each homeowner separately to discuss particular situation, is there any way before that meeting maybe you can send a letter saying what is going to be discussed specifically regarding to each site. So we have a well-prepared thoughts. So we are not going to be kind of like off guarded by the question, not knowing even what we are saying.
Jonathan,
Sure.
where do you live? Sorry, I just want to.
18175 and 18205 at two properties south of a dog who was just talking.
Okay, I'm trying to, because we did send some letters out. I want to see if you would have received one.
My mailing address, by the way, is different than a subject address. Maybe that's why.
So I think that would be a good idea. And if we'll try to get something out to you, if for some reason we don't or we miss it, please feel free to ask. And we'd be glad to send over, what we can or what would be planning to bring to talk about.
Do you know if I have any trees on these properties that is subject to removal, or when you did your visit? On
Yeah, I believe we're showing those 7 trees. That's your property, I believe. The 7 cluster there with you have an existing fence along those 2 parcels, correct?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So there's a 2 or 3 large trees and there are some smaller trees. Several of those are within the right of way. I know a couple are right along the property line. And we've had the arborist out to take a look at the trees through the whole project area. And I know we've had, I say we, our team has had discussions with you, Jonathan, about those trees, I believe, before on site. And so we do plan on coming out again. And
I just want to make sure it wasn't me. And that is the thing that
okay.
you may have gone there and maybe a tenant came out and talked with you and gave an impression that it was me, but it wasn't me.
Okay. Awesome. Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Yes. We would
And
want
then
to
also-
talk with you.
Yes, please. This is oftentimes you may have owners that is really not living there, and really I wanted to make sure that you are talking to the right person. And then
Absolutely.
also, is the fence going to be, since you mentioned the fence, is the fence going to be also removed or replaced, or maybe there's going to be a retaining wall over there?
Yes. The fence is currently extends into the right of way, and it is directly impacted by the walkway, and it will need to be relocated, taken down, and a new fence installed further back at the right of way or just inside your property line.
Okay, and then are you going to locate the monuments as somehow a documentation to the homeowner that where the property line actually lies?
I recall this question came through our public outreach person. So the survey or the project was surveyed at the start. It's been a while. Those property corners should have been found and probably, or they might still be marked in the field.
Okay, that'd be nice, because nowadays any new project that any city they do, they put the new cover on the monument that reads, do not remove it, or little circle something says that this is a survey point or something, whatever it is. And it's usually typically it is visible, especially if it happens that it is right next to the sidewalk. I wonder if such a thing is going to happen or not.
We don't have plans to go out there and do that again. I would believe that the surveyors would have left some mark. When the contractor starts his work, he would have to find those property corners.
That'd be great. Even if he can put a little flag there, that's going to be really useful for all of us, because if I'm supposed to move the fence, I really wanted to know where am I. I'm not going to be doing any mistakes.
So I believe we were planning for the project to move the fence.
Yes, I
Okay.
was gonna let you break the good news, but yes, as the project will move the fence at the
I
city's cost.
I appreciate that. And then the last question I have is that what about the mailboxes? I mean, we have right now, like my property has a mailbox. Is that going to be staying exactly the same place? I'm assuming it will, right?
Yes, yes, I don't believe it's impacted. We aren't planning on moving any mailboxes. If one is disturbed or needs to temporarily be removed, it would be replaced back to where it is currently.
Now, if you want one moved, make sure to let us know when we come out and talk with you about specifics. And, and if we can move it in a place that, wouldn't add cost to the taxpayers, we can do that.
Yeah. It's just that we are talking about safety, and oftentimes we don't talk about really the safety of the postman stopping on the major road for delivery. It's just really insane right now. But anyway, thank you.
Van, you mentioned that you still have a question.
Yes, I have several. I'm sorry.
No problem.
I have to ask, driveway, are you going to replace that to match the existing width of the existing driveways, or how wide is it going to be?
Yes, we are going to match existing widths. We're not replacing the full driveways. We're only replacing enough of the driveway to regrade slopes to match in, so that we're not, creating some sort of a localized hump or depression where the walkway comes through. So that walkway goes across your driveway. We're not going to widen your driveway. Everything stays the same width. And we're not narrowing your driveway either.
Yeah, no, I wasn't asking for making it big or anything onto my property. I was wondering how wide it's going to be. Also, that is it going to be concrete or asphalt?
The walkway or your driveway?
The driveway.
The driveways are currently asphalt, and so they will be replaced, or the portions that are replaced would be put back as asphalt.
Well, but I thought the city has a standard detail, a standard driveway standard that need to be built in the right of way. This one is an old kind of road. People put in whatever it was before, but when it comes to replacement, I believe that you have to meet the current standard for something. I mean, wings and width and concrete, this and that. I thought every place has a standard that you have to follow for public use within a public right of way.
So this particular situation is different. The state actually wouldn't want us to be building a standard city driveway drop, with like concrete wings and ramps and so on at this particular location because of its location along a state highway. So the plan is to tie into the existing driveway as it is and minimize the disturbance on the driveway.
Okay. We were talking about maintenance. I was in the middle of asking you about the maintenance responsibility of the work after you build this. You said that it is going to be the city to maintain it or somebody, government agency. How would we know as property owner that we're not going to be kind of the person that repairing, damages and this and that of the walkway? It can be costly, and I don't think we can afford that. So I was wondering if you can attach an ordinance to this meeting minute saying that no, it is the city or the state that will maintain it, and we are owner not going to do anything to the maintenance of the work.
Well, So the plan is to construct it in a way that it'll last for quite a while. And then with the state and the way their requirements are, the state considers this a temporary walkway that would eventually be getting replaced, like when the properties redevelop, or if the state chooses to do something to improve or change the road. So that's the context of it. And as far as like sweeping the walkway or keeping it, dealing with snow, that would still fall under the, citywide codes where it's actually the responsibility of the abutting property owner in terms of the maintenance, and same with the hedges and so on.
So can you put that in the minutes that that defining the responsibility of who's doing which and what, including damages made by the public, that owner that live along the road have to be coming out there. And you're talking about a lot of traffic, foot traffic on this. And people ride bicycle on this even. It would be a job to be worried about, oh, how much I'm going to repair this. Do I have enough money to do this? Why is it me, So I wonder if you can explain that and clarify that for owner to be kind of free of worry, or be prepared a budget, set aside budget to use if we have to.
Yeah, it seems like maybe a good place for that would be in the agreement that'll go with the project that we'll be working with through our right-of-way agents. As far as the temporary construction agreements and stuff that we'll be working at individually for each project.
Right.
Yeah,
it was my question and concern, and I don't hear a clear answer from this, but I have to keep going to the next question regarding. I heard about corner monumentation at the property corner, and it's only me that I didn't see it. You said that it was surveyed. It was out there, maybe buried somewhere out there, but actually I walk along this and look at the two corners, I didn't see anything. So is it possible for during construction, can you ask your contractor before the walkway is built, survey need to be done? Can we just ask for the monument to be located again with a flag or something? Because if we order a different survey for our property, it would be very few $1,000s. And since you have that, we as citizens would like to have a copy of that or whatever you have. Is it possible?
Okay,
I think-
go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's reasonable to ask the contractor as he's doing his construction surveying is to go in and find property corners, and they can put the little flags in.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
I think we can make that a note on the plans.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right, thank you very much. I like to go back to the hedges. My property is the one that have to maintain spending a lot of money, to trim, to cut back. Now that I have to cut the back of the hedges in order to make the walkway clear, not only the front and also the back. And it's growing extremely fast within a couple months. And not only that, it is extremely dangerous to go out there. Even a high contractor, they say that traffic control is a huge problem. Car running at 50, 60 miles per hour constantly, noisy. And you make me to trim it to make sure it meets the car or the city kind of ordinance or whatever. It is a heck of a job. A lot of money. It's very dangerous. And I didn't plant it.
Do you want the hedge
And
removed?
you plant the type of plantation that growing so fast that, that you have to sit there every week and waiting for that to grow and cut it down again, otherwise would be cited by the city for not keeping it up.
Yes.
I don't think it is a fair job for a citizen to do. Now you put in a walkway between a new fence and existing hedges, and it is huge.
Do you want the hedge
So-
removed?
Yeah, if you can mark the fence 8 foot instead of 6. Senior citizen live there just behind the new fence, very close to that you have to relocate the sheds. And they couldn't come to the meeting because they don't know how. They told me that, would you please tell the city that do something for me? Number 1 is safety, number 2 is noise. And I said, I tried my best. It's
Van,
not,
is that
Yeah.
by chance, we've been hearing from somebody about it. I just was wondering if you could, I'm gonna message you the name and if you could let me know if it's the person that requested, because we have been in touch with someone.
Yeah, so we initially were showing the hedge being removed and then heard from, I think it was at least one resident back there and maybe a couple others that wanted the hedge to stay. And, citing all the
well,
concerns about noise and visual barriers the hedge provided. But if, as you're the property owner, we can remove it as well.
can I draw something that you may agree or disagree that, can we ask for some type of fence that can prevent noise?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
The question is that, can we install sound wall instead of chain or wood fence?
This is ODOT's right away. I don't think they will allow the city to put up a sound wall.
The name sound big, but actually a block wall. It's just block. Not retaining even. It's just like concrete instead of wood or chain link. I call sound wall because it's just a term that I don't think is applicable to walls in this situation. But it would do the job. I hope that it would work better than a wood fence or a chain link fence. So I would ask that you consider that as one of your options before you complete your design. The reason that they were telling you that they don't want to remove the hedges because number 1, they protect their privacy. Number 2, I agree that prevent noises, but if we can replace with something else that help me with the maintenance of the hedges and help them with the noises and safety concern, I would truly appreciate that.
Van, I don't know if you have more questions. It does seem like we should maybe have another conversation with you, maybe even come out to the
Yeah, would you
property.
please? Yeah,
I just want to make sure that we allow enough time. We only have 15 minutes left. If there's anyone else that has questions, we can stay late, but if others can't, we want to make sure that we can hear from everyone tonight.
Let me just add one more on the fence. I think we can work with you to an extent on the fence type. We have to keep costs within a reasonable range for the taxpayers, but we can work with you on the fence type. We can work with you on removing the hedge. So yeah, look forward to working out some more of the specifics. Get to talk with you in person.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
And Van, we may have time to field more questions. I just don't want to, if anyone else is needing to leave before 7 and hasn't had a chance to ask a question.
No, I'm sorry for my
No, you're
questions.
fine. We're
Sure.
happy you're here.
Right,
Does
right.
anyone else have any questions?
I have one question again, Jonathan.
Yes.
Just wanted to make sure when you are taking trees out, is there a budget to plant some trees?
We can work with you on potential landscaping and what we would do with it. So I think that's another good one for an individual discussion.
Yeah, because typically the city, as far as I know, is they encourage if you're taking one tree out, you should plant one tree. So I was just hoping if 7 trees going to be removed, maybe 7 other trees can be relocated somewhere that it's okay with the design. That's all.
Yeah, I think we can talk with you individually about it. And if it's trees that are basically in a similar location, like right next to the road, I think we can include some. So yeah, we'll work with you on that individually.
Anyone else have any questions? Is everyone able to unmute? It looks. Yes.
If for some
Robert.
reason you can't unmute, please type in
I
the chat.
know. Yeah, Robert, is everyone able to unmute?
Yep, everybody can
Okay.
unmute themselves.
Okay, good. Henry, Janine, John.
So if we would like to meet with you individually or in person, how would we do that?
I think let's make sure we have your contact information,
Right.
and we'll try to arrange it fairly soon after. Like within the next few weeks, we'll try to be in touch and arrange something.
Okay.
And then here's, we have both Mike's email and phone number and my email and phone number here. Also, the project website will have this entire recording posted to it, so you can let your friends and neighbors know if they want to watch it at a different time, if they weren't able to make it tonight and would like to be informed about what's happening with the project. And then again, if you email the city email address here, tmf@tualatin.gov, to sign up for project updates, just let them know it's for Highway 99W in the path. Are there any other questions, Van? We're happy to keep fielding your questions tonight too, if no one else has.
No,
just
I have
wanted to-
enough. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add?
Yes, I'd say thank you all for coming, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
And don't hesitate to reach out if you do think of any other questions.
Yep.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was informative.
Oh, good, good.